world's most respected MMO news site, Massively Overpowered, comes a programme that pits one MMO against another in a battle of wits. To the death. Welcome to Massively Opinionated. Media personalities from all over the internet come to this forum to face off in the ultimate debate. Everyone is entitled to their wrong opinion, but ours is the only one that matters. Having heard that someone was wrong on the internet, it's your host, Larry Everett!
Hey everyone, and welcome to the 5th episode of Massively Opinionated, where we take MMO tropes and pit them against each other in a battle to the death. And, well, maybe not to the death. No, to the death. No, to the death. I think I'm going to go with that. To the death. Sounds good. All right, and what I do is I've taken some people from all over the internet, some people that you know and love, and they have their opinions about MMOs and what they bring and what they offer. And this time we are going to talk about stickiness in MMOs. But first, let me introduce the panelists today. We have from MMO Bomb, and he is an editor over there. His name is Jason Winter. How's it going, sir?
Doing pretty well, I am. The question you really should be asking, though, I mean, it is 10 a.m. in the morning. Is Jason wearing pants?
No, he's not. Because
look, proof.
Oh, you are wearing pants. Oh my gosh, that is a travesty on the internet. You're not supposed to wear pants. All right, and also maybe wearing pants, maybe not. It's Tina Lauro. How's it going? We won't ask you to show. It's all right. Yeah. And we know that Cosmic Engine is not wearing pants, but he does do amazing YouTube videos and reviews. How's it going, Cosmic?
I'm alright, you?
And it's also in the afternoon for you, isn't it? So you.
It's like 4 o'clock.
Yeah, so you're.
So the pants have been and gone. Like, he's gone now.
I haven't put them on yet. He's put them on and already got rid of them.
That's right. All right, so I'm going to let me go over the rules here really quickly for anybody who has not seen this show before. What I have done is I have asked these gentlemen and lady to answer 4 questions, and these all revolve around stickiness, like I mentioned before. They sent those answers to me to make sure that, you know, that we have a great debate going on here. And what they're going to do is they're going to argue their beliefs and their understanding of MMOs and see who comes out on top. I will, based on the argument that they give, not necessarily on what I think about their answer, but based on the argument, I will choose whoever had the best argument, and they will win a point per question, and whoever has the most points at the end of the show wins the internet. However, if for whatever reason after the 4 questions there is a tie, I do have one tiebreaker question that they haven't seen before. So anyway, before I think is everybody ready? We ready to battle this out? Because we got some really awesome answers this time around. And I'm going to go with the first question here. We'll talk about stickiness first. It's basically how long do people play an MMO for an extended period of time? That's kind of what stickiness is, and what keeps people attracted to the game. So I asked these guys, what key feature makes an MMO the most sticky? And I'm going to go to Jason first. What feature did you pick, and why?
All right, so you know how it is when you've got your guild in some game or whatever. You got, let's say, 30 or 40 people that are pretty active, and some new game comes out, and about half the people, let's say 20 people are like, yeah, I want to try the new game. It looks great. It looks awesome. So 20 of you log into that game. Well, for the first month, 10 of you are gonna quit just because you're silly and think every new game is great when you got into this one, whatever. So you got like 10 people left in your guild, and you're in the new game. And
Okay.
of those, they eventually start trickling away. One guy's like, I'm kind of tired of it. I don't like the end game. Blah, blah. And what do they all do? We're all just going to go back to, I'll say WoW, because that's usually what it is. I'm just going to go back to WoW, because everyone I know is still playing that. Everyone's leaving this game. There's only like 4 people left in the guild. Everyone I know is still back in WoW. And this even happens in games that aren't WildStar. But anyway. Because I can actually say it happened to me in Rift with my Lotro people, but anyway. So yeah, that to me is like the thing. And whenever you have a game that's got all your friends in it, they're all playing it, that's the thing that keeps people coming back to it. It keeps people being sticky in it. They always go back to the old game. It's always the familiar thing. It's always where everyone is. And even more than mechanics in any case. So I would play a game if I had like 10 or 15 people who I knew really liked it and really stick with it, even if I didn't care for the game that much. Just because, we all know we all play MMOs solo these days. Yeah, but you still want to have your friends and you want to have your guild, your regular people, whatever. That to me is what really makes a game sticky, for me at least, is having that regular bunch of people who I know I can always interact with, always depend on to do something.
So your friends and your guildies, that is what that's what makes it.
Not even a measure of the game mechanics itself,
right.
But just whether there are people in there that I can play with.
It could be a completely horrible game and it would still. But no, okay. We'll get to that later. we'll get to that in a minute.
I'm not going to join the Scarlet Blade Guild or something like that.
All right. Yeah. So, Tina, what did you say? What is the most sticky thing?
Okay, so I went with horizontal progression for my answer, and why I went for that is because people tend to fall off the vertical progression treadmill, because the rewards are just quite disposable. The content itself is consumable, and that sort of dangling carrot of new levels and gear, it only really keeps you going for so long. Whereas your horizontal progression, it would revolve around, the more sort of holistic development of your character. And it shies away from that sort of locking away lower level content because you just make it irrelevant with the new, patch or expansion or whatever. When I think of examples for this, I would think Guild Wars 2 with its level scaling, and I'd also think Eve with how even their easy to access ships have a useful role in combat. You can do things like salvage and stuff like pretty early on in the game, which is always good. Where in both cases anyway, you would have that sort of final goal or endpoint that you sort of set for yourself. You set your goal, you reach it, and then you just go and make some new ones. So play feels more worthwhile, because there's no sort of upper gear tier or anything like that will invalidate itself almost as soon as you earn it.
So, basically, instead of the linear climb from level to level to level, more of a breadth of abilities, a breadth of gear, a breadth. All right, excellent. So horizontal progression. All right, let's go to Cosmic. Cosmic, what did you say?
I went for content, specifically questing and group content like dungeons and raids. The reason for this is, as people know, MMOs are usually designed with the psychology of players in mind, right? So it's about how quickly a player can burn through content and get rewards for each quest. And I think it's ultimately the content is important, specifically the quests, is because it applies to stickiness in how it's implemented in the game. So how the narrative is implemented, how, if there's emergent gameplay in there, so if quests are just fetch quests, or if they're kill quests, or if it's more exploration based, the group content is important for, adding the social element of MMOs in there. And I think it ultimately comes down to how much you enjoy the content of the actual game, to keep playing it, right? So I mean, people aren't going to play, like Jason said, he wants people in there. Well, people aren't going to be there if the content's rubbish, right? So I think it's ultimately the content is the most important thing to ensure that people play as long as possible without taking a break.
And you actually, that's I kind of helped you along there. I apologize for that, Jason. But go ahead, talk about because one of the things that Cosmic said is that if there isn't good content, your friends aren't going to be there anyway. What is your response to that? Why are friends more important than content in that context.
Well, it's kind of a chicken and egg thing, you know. It's like, does content keep your friends around, or well, your friends don't make content, you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, certainly to some extent.
Well, I don't know. Depending on the game, they could be making content.
Sure, yeah, maybe. But yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. Obviously, you want to keep having more stuff, or I could just say a content who needs that, whatever. But no, I'll agree with a little bit. But yeah, you need to have something to keep people in there, and I agree that to me is sort of what companies have really struggled to figure out, is exactly what it is that keeps people in the games. Even games that have, you know, good and regular content, sometimes they don't keep their player base. And I'm not saying I know exactly how to keep your friends in there, how to keep them around. I just think that's the key somehow. But I think that's part of why we've had so many games that pop up, get a bunch of people early on, and then fall off the chart, is because no one's really figured out, you know, even if we do, you know, regular content every month, they still leave. They still go back to WoW or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you get that player base to stick in your game? And I'll admit I don't know exactly what the answer is to that. Maybe I just don't think necessarily that it is better content.
Right.
For me, though, like, if friends were enough to keep you in the game, we wouldn't have dropped so many subs, because we would all still be playing WoW.
Well, because some idiots already just leave because they feel like it, and once that happens, it's kind of a spiraling effect. WoW goes up and down. I'm talking more about like I said, the newish games.
WoW is on the down, though. Let's be clear. Like, I mean, they've dropped so many subs recently that I don't know whether the friendship argument really sticks.
They'll gain another 2.5 million in the next.
Well, that's the answer. That's the interesting thing. I mean, and this is what actually brought about this question is games like WoW that seem like. Okay, so with the latest expansion with WoW, people stayed up there for what, a month maybe, and then just it plummeted compared to where it used to be. Because I mean, it's still number one, and I don't think anybody's going to knock it out of its spot really. No matter how much Star Wars: The Old Republic tried.
They tried? Oh.
Apparently. But anyway, so what? I guess the big question is what would this is, and I'm going to answer this to Tina because she has the I guess the outside the box kind of answer here is. If WoW were to have horizontal progression, do you think that their numbers would not have dropped off? And why wouldn't it have dropped off?
Yes, I definitely think that what has helped World of Warcraft decline is the fact that people are tired of the burn. Just like I was describing, World of Warcraft is kind of like a treadmill that you can't get off unless you're going to just go and leave all out. You have the dangling carrot of the new gear tier or the new raid bosses that you want to clear, the new PvP, whatever. And then you need to just keep going and going and going until you do that. But then once that's done, what happens? You just fall off. And most people do get fatigued even on the way there, let's be fair. Most people don't clear absolutely everything before the next expansion comes out. That's only for hardcore raiders. Most people do fall off before that because of fatigue. And that's when horizontal progression stops, because there is no end goal that you need to just put blinkers on and just focus on. You can develop your character in so many different ways without necessarily having to be the best to be able to actually play and enjoy what you're doing. So I definitely think a contributor to World of Warcraft being on the decline.
I would expect nothing less from a Guild Wars 2 player. like I'm one to talk, of course.
I know. I love your T-shirt. Well, it's so good.
But I'm going to say that I include that in my argument because that's one of the things that helps keep your friends around. Obviously, when your friends are all level 90 and you're level 30 or whatever, you're not going to stick with the game so much. So vertical advancement is a factor of that. So is a lot of other stuff games are doing, like putting in mega servers or letting you buy. Now you can buy level 90 in WoW or whatever you used to be able to. I don't know if you still can.
I just don't think in isolation, friendship is enough. If it was, we would still be playing.
But neither of you two would have anything without content to do, right?
Who needs content?
I'm just saying, you can't have progression without content, and then you can't have friends without content.
But don't people say that?
I'm the base.
It's what kind of content, and that's
I'm the foundation. Everything else comes after.
But don't people say that
my kind.
don't some people say they just maintain their $15 a month WoW subs so they can talk and chat with other people? What some people always say that? They don't need content, they just need their friends.
Foundation.
Yeah, but it's what kind of content?
Well, I agree,
It's
but
what
there's all
kind
different
of
kinds, though,
content.
and I agree that like content needs to shift because it's got stuck in the set way of World of Warcraft doing things, right?
Yeah.
And content does need to shift now. But either way, whichever way you look at it, whether it's traditional content or looking to try new things, you still need it as a base of any game.
You do, but I would say specifically you need that horizontal progression type content to make the game sticky. It's not just content in general. You can't just throw out anything there and hope it's going to stick, because it won't.
All right, let me throw it to each of you for a final argument before I make a call here. And this is I was actually leaning one direction, and then Cosmic talked about the foundation of it. So anyway, let me
Content.
content. Who needs that? Anyway, go ahead, Jason. Final arguments here. Why friends? Why do we need friends?
Why do we need friends? Because, yeah, maybe you need content, but isn't the foundation of an MMO multiple people, massively multiplayer?
But you take the content out, and then you've just got a chat room.
Exactly, and those
Right.
work. I mean,
But I'm saying that's not an MMO, though. That's just a chat
that's
room.
Second Life, or what's the other one? I am to you, or whatever that thing is. with the
IMVU.
heart.
IMVU.
That's IMVU, yeah. You see, those things totally stick around.
Oh my gosh. All right. As my son drags something across the floor. All right. What final statements here, Jason? Go ahead.
That was my final
Okay,
statement.
excellent. All
You don't
right.
need content, you just need people.
All right. Don't need content, just need people. Cosmic, what's your final statement here?
Well, cosmic content's everything, right? I mean, it starts off everything. Whether you have friends, whatever progression system you have, whatever type of content you have, you still need content as a base for anything.
For me, the horizontal progression is what dictates that kind of content, and it's what dictates how many of your friends stick around, and that's why it sort of ties everything together, and that's why horizontal wins.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Okay, then. I guess we figured it out.
That sounds like a fight to the death, all right.
So, all right. So this is the tough thing for me, and I think the center of this argument, if you will, like the middle ground of this argument, is content, is Cosmic's answer, because on one side, without content, you just have friends. And then if you want a specific kind of content, maybe horizontal progression is the best way to go. But I think the ultimate foundation, however, for what makes a game sticky, because I think Jason actually proved that it is friends, because even without content, even without horizontal progression, you could still have a game if you just had friends. Now, granted, is it an MMO at that point? I guess that's questionable, but we're talking about stickiness, not necessarily what makes an MMO. So I'm giving the point to Jason.
Do you have a sound effect for that?
I do, yeah. And
Okay.
you don't hear it.
Post
but-
it's okay.
All right, so we figured out that friends clearly are what makes MMOs the most stickiest. So with that in mind, not necessarily.
We figured it out. It's undebatable now. It's just
Yeah.
inscribed upon the annals of internet history.
That's right. So with that in mind, I've asked which IP could be, which IP is or could be the stickiest. So that means it doesn't necessarily mean an IP that's currently being used in an MMO, although it could be. I don't want to leave those out. But so an IP that is or is not being used in MMOs currently, which is the stickiest? I'm going to go to Tina first.
I was so hoping you were going to go to me first. I'm so excited about my answer. Okay. Okay, there is one clear, true winner here, and it has to be Harry friggin' Potter, man. Come on. Has to be. It's just so hard to fathom just how many people around the globe are just captivated with J.K. Rowling's World of Wizardry. There are 7 core books and plenty of side lore provided by the author herself to draw inspiration on, so you'd have a really lore-rich sort of MMO out of that. And we've seen how amazingly popular the Orlando resort is, so we know that people are still just as interested as they could ever be, and people do want to be a part of that world. So if you make that a virtual world, it's totally going to be successful. The amount of immersion would just be amazing, because you'd have all your subjects to master, there'd be the whole wizarding world to explore, and the jobs in the wizarding world are the coolest things ever. That is so compelling that you would just be mad to leave. The wizarding community is so close-knit in Rowling's world as well, just out of necessity, because they have to deliberately isolate themselves from the muggles, that, you know, you're going to have that sort of safety net, and a lot of people sort of getting that close-knit in the game as well. And the in-game community would also have to share spaces, because, you know, you have, you know, your school, your castle, the grounds, the classes, on all those wizardly locations to go and share. So it sounds amazing.
I'm just noticing here that the reason that Harry Potter is the best, as far as her argument is concerned, is because of friends, not because of horizontal progression.
Well, we did talk about the content a little bit. I'll give her that.
All right, Cosmic, go ahead. Which IP do you think is the most sticky?
Judge Dredd. Everyone loves Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd is awesome, right? You have everything in there. You've got like good old-fashioned sci-fi. You've got kick-ass Nazism judges. You've got ABC warrior robots, mutants, crazy cannibals. What more do you want? That's awesome, right?
Friends.
You can have friends who are judges.
So, okay, Judge Dredd, why is it sticky, though? Why is it the most sticky?
Well, because I mean, imagine the world you could create with that, though. I mean, you could have all the different mega cities to go play around in. You could have the wasteland to go play around in, so you could go fight mutants and cannibals and all that kind of thing. And you could create a really immersive world with that you could do so many things, because the IP is quite diverse and vast in its story. I mean, they've got psychics, they've got all kinds of things weird and wonderful that you could just implement in the game to make it as diverse as possible in terms of the content. And, you know, with content you can have friends.
Yeah, because that's how it works, right?
And because you have cannibals, then you can eat your friends.
Exactly.
Sounds
one of them wants
wonderful.
to go back to WoW, just eat them, it's fine. Not a problem. Done.
Jason, which one did you pick?
Well, I kissed up to the host and said Star Wars.
Oh, well, there we go. Jason wins.
There's a winner. I mean,
There it is.
No, I mean, let's be honest though. If the prequels couldn't kill it, then nothing will. I mean, it really is about it's as sticky as anything. You even breathe Star Wars. I mean, he should do this for all. Just print Star Wars on a game, and it'd sell like 1 million copies. So
Yeah, it does.
Really,
It at least sells one.
Right, but what Star Wars time period are you talking about, though?
anything. Yeah, I mean,
Because most of it is like retcon now anyway.
well,
most of
sure.
it's gone.
I mean, none of it exists for real. But I'm just saying the fact that they can have all these different, expanded universe and prequel and the stuff in between the movies and whatever. The fact they can have all that, there's so much there for people to go after. You talk about there being a lot of Harry Potter stuff. Look at all the Star Wars stuff that's been around forever. And even when you have.
It's interesting though that you say that, because one of the problems I had with Star Wars: The Old Republic was that I got to a point, because I was a massive lore fan of Star Wars, and especially the expanded universe, and especially all the Old Republic kind of time era, and it just got to the point where lore-wise I couldn't actually justify myself playing it anymore, because it just got too stupid and it broke lore too much, and I just got to the point where I was like, they just don't even care anymore. Like,
Here's the thing. That's the thing. I mean, I also stopped playing after a while, but you and I were MMO hipsters.
That means it's
Larry's one of the
people
masses.
Stop playing.
Larry's one of the masses. He still keeps playing, and they have like 1 million people in the game. So clearly, even with whatever issues it had, it's still popular as heck. And then the movies are going to make another $1 billion or whatever. So Star Wars, sticky as hell.
Wow. So why is...
I just called you a peon, Larry. One of the peons.
I know, right? Man. Insulting the host, and he wants to win points. So why... I have to ask, and I'm not sure which one to ask first, but I mean, everybody knows the expansiveness of Star Wars. Everybody... actually, everybody knows the expansiveness of Harry Potter. I'm interested, really, to know why would a Judge Dredd game? Why would that IP have a little bit more stickiness? Now, and we're not necessarily. Now, here's the thing. To be clear, we're not talking about popularity. Because we know that
well, I think that you've exactly said it there. I mean, Star Wars, everyone knows Star Wars, everyone knows Harry Potter, right? Now, what's more fun, especially when it comes to video games, than playing a game that's a new IP that hasn't really been done much before, and you've got completely new everything to explore, right? There's nothing more fun than that. There's nothing more fun than going into an open world game and exploring everywhere.
I don't know. Harry Potter hasn't really been explored very well as an IP.
No, but it's more popular as an IP though, right? Like you would say the majority of people have seen the films or read the books.
I don't think popularity is a negative though.
It's maybe not a negative,
but it's not negative in itself.
It's maybe not a negative, but I would say that it's more fun. Like, for example, if you were to make a Harry Potter world, you would obviously make some of the stuff that's in the books and the films, right? Yeah. So people would recognize that. Whereas if you made a Judge Dredd MMO, the majority of people probably haven't seen the film or haven't read the comics, and so it would be completely new open space to explore. They would just be like, "That's amazing."
Know. The Judge Dredd movie was very popular. Come on, you got to give me that one.
I don't think it was. It should have been.
So everyone's forgotten it.
The Keith Urban one or the Sylvester Stallone one?
I liked both.
Oh,
yeah.
In their own way.
So that is interesting, and I think that I guess I'm looking for something here that kind of makes the. Okay, I'll be honest. You guys are fighting against Star Wars because Jason made a good,
really though,
an amazing point, and I'm not saying just because I have Star Wars posters and stuff behind me here, but the thing is, Jason made an amazing point that there is absolute proof, and that people will stick with Star Wars even if it sucks.
Look at Larry.
And I think,
guys, I'm trying to help. I'm trying to insult Larry as much as I can. I swear.
So that's kind of what I'm looking for here is why would people stick with it even if the game sucks?
I think the proof with Harry Potter is that you're still seeing massive development in the franchise in every other area right now. Like, we're about to just have new movies yet again, and we have just seen the park open in Orlando in recent history. There's going to be a British park opening at some point. There's still so much activity and hype there that no chance would it fail. No chance.
And there's probably some knockoff Chinese park unlicensed too. So they have that for everything.
Yeah.
So let me ask this. I guess this will be the best question to kind of probably tip the scale off of Star Wars. What if the Harry Potter MMO sucks really bad, just like about every 2 games that comes out in Star Wars? What would make people stick around to that game, even though it is not a great? Let's say it's just a mediocre game, below average. Why would people stick with it?
what would make people stick is the fantasy of being part of that world. That is what really grips the Harry Potter community. Like, if you think how many people signed up for that Harry Potter LARP, that, like, I mean, it never ran before, it was not a known thing, and they were inundated with applications, so much so that they had to do a second and third series before they'd even launched the first. That was without even seeing the content, Larry. So it's just the magic of that surrounding. People are so into those books, and I mean, I know I'm right at the age where I was, you know, a child coming into teenage years when those books were out. I mean, I think it was, I don't know, maybe 18, 19 when the last one was, like, sort of released. I grew up with Harry Potter, man. Like, that is one of those things that you just could never separate from my soul. It is.
It's like a Horcrux.
It's like a Horcrux. That's a good one. All right, Cosmic. Why? Okay, let's say the Judge Dredd game isn't great. I mean, I don't want to say sucks, because if it sucks, clearly people are just going to drop whatever game it is anyway. Well, let's say it's not great. Why would people stick with it?
I would say, similar to Star Wars, it's got so much lore and backstory. I mean, so is Harry Potter. I mean, every IP's got lots of lore, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. Yeah. But I think that with similar to Star Wars, I think that Judge Dredd is sci-fi, but with much more of a dystopian feel, and people a lot of people flock to dystopian futures, right? Like, especially like Wasteland 2, everything, like, you know, people just go for that stuff. I mean, Wasteland 2, when it came out, was buggy as hell, but people still stuck with it and played it and played it and played it. I think that it's just one of those games, and it's one of those IPs that has got so much variety in it. Even when you think of sci-fi, you just think of specific things. The actual IP, similar to Star Wars, it's more of a sci-fi / fantasy, because there's a lot of fantasy elements in Judge Dredd. It's just got so much diversity in there that you could literally do anything, and I think it would ultimately appeal to not only fans of the IP, but like people like role players and that kind of thing, that it would build up its own communities very, very easily and have a lot of people stick around.
The only thing I'd worry about with your choice is how you would balance all that variety, because you do have so many different things in the Judge Dredd kind of universe that it might be hard in terms of balance, and that could cause people to get frustrated and leave the game and sort of affect the stickiness.
But I think that's true about any IP that's got lots of lore. Like, I mean, look at Star Wars: The Republic. They've got so much in there. Like, there's a lot of stuff in there that just you sit there and go, "What was that about?" I mean, if you've never ever followed the Old Republic and Star Wars, and you go play the Old Republic, and Revan comes along, you're like, "Oh, it's a 300-year-old guy. Where's he from?" Right? Well, how does that make any sense? Right? I mean, some of it is very out there, right?
If Revan was going on with his mask and be like, "I am the law," then it'd be fine.
That'd be awesome, yeah.
Sure.
I'm here for that.
I think. Oh man, this is. Although I can see, and the main problem I'm having at this point is making the arguments for. Because I want to make some of your guys' arguments for you at this point, because I think there is definitely a way to knock Star Wars off its pedestal.
Like it would have beat WoW if it was actually that sticky. It could have done better than WoW, and it didn't. So there you go.
Here's the problem with Harry Potter is that, yeah, sure, it's popular amongst all ages, but it does appeal more to kids, and sometimes kids grow out of that, whereas you have like 50, 60-year-old guys like Larry still playing Star Wars.
I actually have to disagree with that. I know far more adults.
I'm not saying that isn't, but
I know far more adults who will sit down and watch Harry Potter on their own than I know children will.
Yeah, but with it, oh no, I'm starting to make your argument for you again. But shoot, I think the closest one, and I'm really tempted to give it to Harry Potter. Although
just remember, Judge Dredd's watching right there, right there with a gun. Just saying.
If I had a lightsaber, I'd be all right now.
Man, I'm also having trouble here because I don't want because I know people are going to be watching this and going, "Oh, you're just catering to Star Wars because that's your IP, that's the one you love."
Call it out now, people.
Totally not. Nope. Don't worry. My next 2 answers suck. So even if
So I think I'm going to give it to Star Wars, and this is the reason why. This is the reason why.
There's no way. There's absolutely no way. There's no way.
The reason why is because it's shown that it can have really terrible games. And still, I honestly, there has not been there. You cannot say that there has been a bad Harry Potter movie, right? None of them were absolutely terrible.
That's maybe not terrible. But there were some that were really, really inconsistent, and really, really irritated fans. Go and look at movie 3.
That's. Yes, but I can't say I wasn't a fan of the Harry Potter books. I mean, I didn't. Let me put it this way: I didn't read them. Not that I wasn't a fan. I did like the movies. I thought the movies were fine, and the thing is that I don't think any of them were horrible. However, there were horrible Star Wars movies. Let's be real. Episode 1 is a horrible, horrible movie.
Here's a confession. I like Episode 1.
Okay, then you lose a point just for liking Episode 1.
I can tell you why that's a great film. There is only one scene in that film that I completely hate, which is the midichlorian scene. But apart from that, I thought it was all right. He had a decent bad guy.
So
who did I like more?
Dude, just for liking Jar Jar, he should be disqualified.
That's right.
Oh my god!
But I gotta tell you, Harry Potter is so close. If there was any way to show that that Harry Potter sucked in any form, if there was any point where Harry Potter just absolutely sucked and people still stuck with it, then I would have given the point to Harry Potter. But so far,
I'm going to make her argument for her here because there was.
Oh, now they're teaming up against me.
There was 3. There was 3 games on the PlayStation 2, which were Harry Potter games.
Dreadful.
And they were all absolutely
awful,
woefully bad.
That's why I said earlier that the IP really hasn't been explored very well in terms of.
Yeah,
3 bad games. Star Wars is like every quarter.
I know. 3 days. Yeah, that's 1 year for EA and Star Wars.
But you can't. It's not fair to give it to Star Wars just on the basis that the IP is oversaturated.
It's not over. No, it's not that it's oversaturated.
But that's exactly it. That's the reason it's sticky because they know people keep coming back to it, so they oversaturate the hell out of it.
They need to keep making new shit because the original stuff sucks so hard.
Smells the chumps like Larry.
Walking the bloody horse.
Gosh, it's really. I still got to give it to Star Wars. I still got to give it to Star Wars. Only because Jason has shown that there's some things out there that really really suck with Star Wars, but people stick with it.
I'm telling you now, comment section.
Yes.
Pull it out.
Tell us the worst Star Wars game you bought, and then you still bought the next one.
Call it out. Call the bias out.
All right.
We tried, Cosmic. We tried.
All right, we're gonna have to. We'll go to question 3 here while the comments, talk about my bias here. All right. So, in this one, I'll have no bias. I don't think. God, I hope not. Other than WoW, because it's clear that everybody always goes back to WoW, as as has been said multiple times here already. Which MMO has the most stickiness? And you obviously have to explain what that is, and we'll go to Cosmic first on this one. So, which one is it?
Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Wow.
Well, you got to pull it out. If you can't beat him, join him, right? No, but it is actually because. And the simple reason is this: it is a carbon copy of World of Warcraft in terms of mechanics, near enough. In terms of its questing system, what they've done better is things like narrative, where they fully voiced, right? And that was fantastic. And I think it still, to this day, remains probably the best story-driven MMO. Just for that reason of the cutscenes and everything like that. I think the reason that it's most stickiest, though, is because it is a combination of kind of World of Warcraft mechanics mixed with Star Wars. And they kind of blended that together. And did little things like, as I say, fully voiced, and then they did like the augment system where you could pull out and put, kind of use whatever gear you wanted. And I would say that's why it's the most sticky. I mean, it's got the numbers. The numbers are up there, right? Mm-hmm. Still, maybe. I don't know. I haven't played in a while.
I don't know. You tell me.
That's it.
Larry doesn't know anything about SWTOR.
I know nothing. I know nothing about it.
I mean, the numbers are still pretty high. I mean, talking maybe 1 million, 2 million, something.
That's
like
what
that.
they say. They say about 1 million regular users. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So I mean, it's higher than the majority of MMOs out there, and it's still there 2 years down. And it still gets now it's getting regular content anyway. So I mean, it's pretty sticky, from what I say.
All right, Jason, what did you say?
Star Wars sticky? Come on, man! I don't know where you're getting that idea from.
I don't know.
But no, I went with EverQuest, the original EverQuest. It was the first big hit, and it was the original WoW in the sense of. People for a while were like, oh, I'm going to try another game. Okay, that was fun. Now back to where my friends are, because it's all about the friends. In fact, it's still kind of even got that. Like 15 years later, if you've ever been to one of those SOE Live or Fanfare or whatever they call it, go to those. People are still crazy. Like 15 years, they're still cosplaying. They're still, when they have someone from SOE up there talking about something, they'll still say and I remember back when I played EverQuest and I did this thing or whatever, they still talk about that. They'll point out some guy in the crowd who's, he met his girlfriend in EverQuest and they got married and now they have like 2 kids and they play EverQuest too. It's just like, and it's got the longevity. It stood the test of time. So even though it's a lot smaller than it used to be, the people who are there are just hardcore lifers. They're just never going to leave. So I think that EverQuest is the stickiest.
Do we know any of the attendance numbers for the last SOE Live?
It might be out there somewhere, but I'm not sure what it is.
I was just curious. All right, Tina, what did you say?
Okay, I have to go with shock horror. My always answer, EVE Online. Why I have to go with EVE Online is because I think it definitely wins out in terms of stickiness. I think a lot of people will confuse accessibility with stickiness in this question, and that's not what we're looking for. Yes, EVE Online does have a higher barrier to entry, but with EVE, those who tough it out do tend to stick around for a very long time. There's always another goal to reach in EVE, and like that could be, getting enough ISK to play, to pay for your game time. It could be training a new ship, whatever. And because that's player set, those goalposts can move whenever the player's comfortable with that, which keeps them moving on at their own pace. And those goals, very importantly, don't invalidate the work that came before, which is what many MMOs that employ the vertical types of aggression are totally guilty of. EVE's actually a great background game as well. There's a lot of downtime between periods of action, such as PvP fleets and things like that, so people can play it and another game or do some work at the same time, which keeps people logging in because they can keep it as that sort of background pastime. It doesn't take an incredible amount of effort then to keep up with EVE. It holds people in by allowing people to take on responsibilities. And I'm not just talking about like raid leader, guild leader, things like that. I mean, you have people pushing propaganda, you have fleet commanders in high demand, you have theory crafters, battle strategists, newbie helpers, workshop runners, logistics officers, diplomats, the list goes on. In a sandbox like EVE, the jobs sort of create themselves out of the community's need, much more readily than in theme park MMOs, so that creates a kind of close community and friends that sort of form their own barrier to exit.
And I think that last statement, the very last thing you said is kind of key here for stickiness, is barrier to exit. So and I think I think we've seen with linear progressions and games like that. So what is the barrier to exit for EQ and SWTOR? And and how does that compare to what Eve has? Whoever wants to go, Cosmic or Jason, either one.
Yeah, well, I mean, with SWTOR, it's all about endgame raiding, right? I mean, it's very World of Warcraft-esque. It's all about getting the next, when the new content releases, moving up to the next gear set, right? It's tried and tested.
But it's ultimately fall off of.
I mean, maybe so, but again, you can't then argue that accessibility isn't a factor in stickiness, but barrier to exit is.
Sure, you can.
I don't think you can because but ultimately, take EverQuest, right? Take the original EverQuest. People still play the original EverQuest, right? Yeah. Does that mean the game's sticky, or does that mean that there's always going to be a certain number of players who push through because that game resonates perfectly with them? Does that mean the game's sticky, or does that mean that you're always going to get players like that?
No,
because you're always going to, no matter what MMO there is, you're always going to get a group of players who that game is perfect for them.
Yeah.
Does that make the game sticky to the majority of people?
Totally, because that means it's hit the nail on the head for what it intended to do, and that is stickiness. And it's the same for EverQuest and Eve. They both have that in common, where they have refined and grasped that audience in such a way that they will stick. And that's because they have done their niche so well. And I don't think you can take that away just by saying...
I don't think you can take that away, but at the same time, I think that accessibility does come into stickiness, because for the majority of players, for the masses, like for the World of Warcraft masses, they need that accessibility for a game to be sticky for them.
Well, let's be fair, Eve isn't exactly a tiny game either. Okay, it's no World of Warcraft in terms of the...
No, absolutely. It's still got huge numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
But my point is about the accessibility argument is that for the majority of people, they need that accessibility element to make a game sticky for them.
But that won't make the game sticky. That will just get them into it. They need
but I would argue it's an element of it for them.
Sticky.
It's an element.
Really. That might get them playing 2 months, 3 months, but that won't keep them there once they're in. And you need to sort of break up the typical theme park rat race.
It won't keep them there once they're in, but it'll start them off. Whereas, like for example, I stuck with World of Warcraft for 5 years, and I stuck with Star Wars: The Republic for a number of years. But I played Eve for like 3 months, and I was like, no, I'm done. I can't do this. It's too much. And it's just, I would argue that the accessibility part of it is a big major part of getting into the game for the game to be sticky for a lot of people.
Barriers to entry and barriers to exit are two very, very distinct things. One might get people playing, but one will keep them there.
Is there a game that has both? That has a lower barrier of entry and...
Yeah, I would say Guild Wars 2 fills that. Guild Wars 2 is so easy to start.
But that's not on the list!
I know. That's what I would say. It would have both. But it doesn't have the barriers of exit in the same way that Eve does. I think Eve does that especially well. It does have way better entry level, though. I mean, come on. Eve is tough going at the start, but once you're in, you're locked in.
And this is a really tough one, because I'll be honest, I don't think that either of these, in my opinion, none of these that are listed here is the most sticky game.
What, other than World of Warcraft?
Other than World of Warcraft, right?
Really?
Really? What would you pick?
What would I pick? I would have picked Guild Wars 2.
Yeah, I was close. But I think the barriers to exit in Eve went out. I wasn't just looking at barriers to entry.
But here's the thing, and this is why I asked about SOE Live's numbers, is because I think I think the closest one to being the most sticky here is EverQuest, but the thing is, it would only be sticky if they had maintained a clear, large number of people. If they're able, because it's been around. I mean, what are we? 15 years for EverQuest now? So
16 actually, 99.
16. Yeah. Okay. So if they had maintained a large number of people, I mean, hundreds of thousands of people, which I don't think they have.
No.
Yeah.
Anymore.
If they had maintained like hundreds of thousands of people, then I would say absolutely EverQuest is the one, because I mean, to keep hundreds of thousands of people, that's not just one. That's not a highly niche game. The problem that I'm having with Tor is regarding stickiness is that people it's fallen into the same trap that WoW has in a sense, but to a greater extent, where people have gone to it and fallen off, and gone to it and fallen off, and although they do keep coming back, but I don't think it's had the longevity to show that they're going to continue to come back, whereas Eve, and I think this is where my point's going to go right now, is
consistency over everything else.
Exactly. It has maintained the most consistent population over either of the other two games, and so the point's going to go to Eve Online. Yay! All right. So we are Jason with 2 points, Tina with 1 point, and Cosmic. Even though you won the last one, you haven't got a point yet this time around. So
I'll take the win. Still riding the win.
That's right. That's right. All right. So we'll go to the last question here, and it's pretty much the same question that I've asked for every show, but this time we're focusing on stickiness. So I have asked the panelists here to build me a sticky MMO, name 3 key features, the genre, and the studio that would make it, and we're going to go to Jason. Go ahead.
All right. Well, for my 3 features, I'm going to steal from Tina, basically, because one of the first ones I wrote down was basically horizontal progression, which is, but it's all based on friends. All my stuff is based on friends because when you have a more horizontal kind of progression, you're not going to leave your friends behind, or they're going to be on different parts of some quest or on a dungeon or whatever. So keep players relatively even, and so you can get new players to jump in and still play with your friends as soon as you do that, and so on. So that would be a big point of it. I also think mega server or one server kind of technology is needed. Again, help you keep players together so that you don't have. Because again, I'm basically making Guild Wars 2 here almost, but anyway. But yeah, again, to help keep players together so you don't. Cause, I mean, I've always had the thing where not always, but a lot of games I've been like, okay, guys, I'm making a character on this server. Oh, I'm making a character here. I'm making a character here. I'm making a character here. And it's like, great, now none of us can play together. So I'm going to quit this game in like a month and a half because I can't play with anybody. So I think some sort of mega server-ish technology is just needed these days. And then I tried to go something a little different. I tried to figure out something a little less mechanical in terms of keeping players together and keeping you with your friends or something. So I thought about Hearthstone. I thought of how they have spectator mode, and I've watched some people play games, and I've friends of mine, and I chat with them while they're playing, and I watch them and see if they have any interesting strategies for me to pick up on. And of course, spectating on Twitch or whatever is also something that people do a ton of these days. So what if an MMO had spectator mode straight up, where you could just watch your friend doing a raid or just going out and doing content or whatever? It'd be a way to interact with them in a different manner, to chat with them a little bit, see what kind of strategies they're running, and see if you can get some ideas from them, or vice versa, and so on. It's a kind of interesting social tool that really no MMO uses. So I'd like to see a kind of spectator mode in an MMO to help you stick not only stickiness in terms of long-term sort of be around for a long time, but just in terms of an individual session. I'm done playing. What am I going to normally do? I'm going to log off. But now, if I have this, maybe I'll watch my friend for like half an hour and just hang out with him for a bit. So, in terms of genre, I've never been one who's been like, oh, it has to be this, it has to be that. I think it depends on what kind of players you're trying to draw or retain. I don't think that's dependent on what kind of genre it is, what kind of game. It could be a fantasy tab-targeting sandbox or a sci-fi action theme park. As long as you've got those things in place to allow for you to have players play together. Although, in that sense, I sort of think that something less theme parky and more open would help with that. Because when you have a theme park, it's like a different. You're on this like 5-part quest to do this stuff. Someone joins in the third part where you're on the fourth. Now you got to go back with them. You don't want to interact with them and so on. So having something a little more open that allows you to just have a friend who just joins in and joins you on your adventure, I think really works a lot for that.
All right.
And
go ahead.
Studio. Can I keep going?
Yeah, Studio. Go ahead.
All right, Studio. Last time I picked ArenaNet, so I'm going to go different this time, although I kind of felt they have a lot of that stuff. But this time I'm going to go with Tryon Worlds. So I feel like they kind of have been going in this direction. I feel they just missed it a little on Rift. I think they wanted to maybe go with something a little more open, a little more. And they had some of the stuff. They had like the way you can group for the rifts and so on. But they still had that WoW clone kind of interior underneath. But they've been doing a lot of different stuff to try and make it more of a just open jump in kind of game. I think they implemented free server transfers very quickly in the game's lifespan to try and deal with that issue. I think their more recent games, Defiance and Trove, have been a lot better at including people and not being totally dependent on vertical progression and so on. And Arcade isn't their fault, so we won't talk about that.
Arcade isn't their fault. All right.
But yeah, there you go.
Tina.
Okay.
What is your game?
I cannot put down my Harry Potter MMO, dude. I have to bring it back again. I can't let this lie. I can't. No, this has to end a point. I would aid community stickiness, like I mentioned before, by making the MMO subscription based and having qualifications, IELTS and Newts, they call them in Harry Potter. The players can earn through taking classes and skilling up certain areas. But if you let your sub lapse in the middle of earning a qualification, you'll get a grinning letter in your email explaining that your lack of attendance could hold you back, and you'll need to retrain for that qualification if you don't recommit to the classes. I know I wouldn't want to let my progress slide, so I would keep working until I'd earned that qualification. And of course, the best visiting jobs go to people who have exemplary grades at both levels, don't you know? So I would want to be a badass or maybe headmistress of Hogwarts or something. So, I would need to work very, very hard to do that. You could easily captivate a different kind of audience and hold that audience across a good span of time by having Quidditch matches, Wizard and Chess, Dueling, the Triwizard Tournament, and other Harry Potter-focused large-scale events that tie in with the IP, and staggering those throughout the year so that people will log in to complete those at key times all throughout the year. The world's just so rich that there'll always be something to hook most players and keep them playing. You could even have it so that you had to apply to the MMO like you were applying to a wizarding school, and then you could be accepted by email. Yeah,
this sounds like hell.
It's awesome. And then,
if I don't play, I get letters of attendance.
Yeah, totally.
What if I pay my $60 for the game and then fail my application? Do they not let me play?
It's like high school all over again.
Totally.
I've had jobs that were less demanding than this.
You would start an intake period anyway, and then that would add value to your place in MMO. Once you'd had to apply and wait to get into the next intake, you wouldn't want to let your place slide. Anyone could recreate just Hogwarts, but it would take an amazing amount of creative vision to create the whole wizarding world with rich foreign artistry, so it has to go to ArenaNet. It has to. I could only imagine what they could do with that world. It would just be gorgeous and beautiful. It would be just so magical feeling. I'd love it.
That's right. All right. Okay, after recovering from that, let's go to Cosmic.
I do not want to make a virtual school. But I too, I'm going to stick with my other answer, I want to build my Judge Dredd MMO, right? So my first key feature would be questing and content, and it would be get rid of the old World of Warcraft, go kill 5 pigs, come back, go fetch this, come back, get rid of all that rubbish and crap that's boring now, right? And do something that is creative and reflects the IP that you're working in, right? I mean, you're a judge, like in World of Warcraft, you don't feel very heroic going around killing pigs, right? It's not okay.
Well, I do. I kill pigs
I'm a judge, right? So what does a judge do in the Judge Dredd IP? They're a law officer, the law enforcement, right? So set up quests that have you go to crime scenes and gather evidence and, try and reconstruct the crime, go find the perp, give a judgment, all that kind of thing. Like, do something that really reflects the IP and the character that you're playing, rather than just throwing any old piece of crap in there to progress. The second would be to have multiple types of group content in there. So not just your traditional endgame raids and dungeons, but have things like solo dungeons in there for people who want to just, like a quick run solo dungeon that you just go in, play, get out, done. Try and be really creative with the raids, not just have things that are very linear. Try and put some emerging gameplay in there so it becomes more interesting. It's about more like exploration and things like that. I think that would be a much better way of doing things. And the third main feature would be probably open world PvP, because in the IP of Judge Dredd, it's like you've got the mega cities, which are relatively safe but not really, and then you have like the wasteland in between the mega cities, and that is just completely like full of cannibals, mutants, everything that just wants to kill you, right? So I feel that that should be the place where you step out into the wasteland and everything's fair game, right? It's about really trying to make the game feel as realistic and immersive as possible. So that would be my third feature. Obviously, the genre would be sci-fi, and the developer would be Gunfire Games, they used to be Vigil Games under THQ, and then when THQ went under, they changed into Gunfire. And the reason for them is because, one, they created the Darksiders franchise, which is a really underrated franchise, and they also worked on the Warhammer 40,000 MMO that got canned when THQ went under. And I can tell you now, from what I saw of that MMO, it was a great MMO. So I think they would do the IP a lot of justice there.
They would do it justice. I get it, Judge Dredd.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's very punny of you.
Very, very funny.
All right, so I'm gonna what I'm gonna do here, because I have to make because we might go into the fourth or fifth question here. So let me give each of you an opportunity. I'll start with Jason again, to tell why your game is going to be better than some of the features that they listed, that both Tina and Cosmic listed, and I'll go through each of you, and you can do that. So go ahead, Jason.
Well, I think my game is definitely better than Tina's, but I don't know about Cosmic. So I wouldn't mind if he wins, because then I would still win overall. So I think Cosmic might have but I will say that mine is the best because, friendship. Because it tries its best to keep people together, try to keep your friends in the game so that you can always... And it doesn't try to extort them by sending you emails. Resubscribe now.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know what? You should just get the point for being completely unapologetic about that point.
I can almost admit that.
Whatever.
I'll justify it in a minute. I will.
Positive reinforcement, not negative reinforcement, like school.
It's school. It's the
Of course not.
It's school. It's all about negative reinforcement. What are you talking
I
about?
have to get that point in.
If you unsubscribe for a really long time, they send someone to your house to whack your fingers with a ruler. That's the idea. Mine encourages friendship, and it does it the right way.
All right, Tina, go ahead.
Okay, for my Harry Potter game, you guys are talking about school and work and how much of a chore it would be. It is friggin' Hogwarts, guys. Are you missing this point?
I'll just go to Durmstrang then. Hell with it.
Exactly. Go Durmstrang. But no, this isn't school like we would imagine school. Let's be fair here. I did not get to levitate stuff, and cast dangerous spells at the people I didn't like in my class in school, okay? This is not school as we know it. This is freaking awesome. And the Wizarding World has that sense of danger and intrigue, and it has that specialness to it because, you know, you're separated from this Muggle world, and that's what keeps people hooked. That's what keeps people hooked. And, I mean, we're bitching about the dedication that you would need for my MMO. Well, do you know what? Dedication is definitely a part of MMOs. That is why we're talking about stickiness right now, guys. We would not be talking about stickiness if stickiness was not an issue in MMOs.
Okay. Cosmic.
I'm just not even sure what to say to that. Be in school, kids.
Stay in school. Don't do drugs.
You know, become a criminal, the Judge Dredd comes and arrests. There you go.
And, right. Well, exactly. It doesn't love, I mean, come on. Judge Dredd. I mean, what more do you want?
Why is okay? So why is it better? Why is the Judge Dredd and IP and the specifically what I'm thinking about here is why are your features better than the other features that were mentioned? Why?
Well, I mean, I think it comes down to mainly mine focus on content, right?
Right.
So, and I think we all agree that content is a foundation.
Yeah.
Else in MMOs.
Yeah. Clearly, from the first question, we saw that. Yeah.
I'm just saying that's what it is. And, you know, content promotes friends and everything else. But I think that's the most important thing. I still think. I mean, it is ultimately. It's not. Stickiness is not as black and white as that. I mean, it's a combination of a lot of factors, right? I mean, that's what ultimately what it comes down to. You can't. That's why it's so hard for developers to replicate, because it's not just one thing. It's got to be at the right time, the right circumstances. Everything's got to be perfect. But I think that ultimately, the way that you come close to replicating the stickiness in terms of World of Warcraft terms as best as possible is to really push forward on content. And the problem, the reason why people haven't replicated World of Warcraft success is because they've tried to just copy World of Warcraft. And people are like, well, no, but we've seen this before, right? So the way that they're going to do this again and replicate that kind of success is to bring something new to the table. And Judge Dredd is something new, right? It's not Star Wars. We've all seen Star Wars. It's Harry Potter. We've all seen Harry Potter. Not everyone's seen Judge Dredd.
Like this.
Maybe there's a reason for that.
No, we don't want to go to school. We don't want to go to school.
We do.
We do.
Oh man! Although out of the ones listed, okay. So as far as the IP is concerned, just I would say that Harry Potter's probably the most stickiest here. But when you combine Harry Potter with,
Is it though? Is it because, I mean, Judge Dredd has been going for what, 80 years?
but
It's been going a long time.
the thing is
And
though,
at least 30 or 40 people are interested in it.
yeah, I think that's kind of what it boils down to. Although I would absolutely play that Judge Dredd game. I'd be all over that game. Honestly, that is an amazing setup. The content is great. So I'm kind of torn here, and I think, and the thing I'm torn with most here has to do with the developer themselves. Although Gunfighter Games has, it has a nice pedigree for single player games and multiplayer, oriented games, but they don't have the pedigree for MMOs that Trion does. And
If you consider what Tryon does good, I mean, yeah, I guess.
At least it's something.
well, the thing is that.
But you're saying that, but again, they did develop an MMO, it just didn't come out because THQ went bust, which is not their fault.
It's true.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
It's all the faster.
But the thing is though, it's not. That's where I'm kind of torn.
And I would just like to point out, Larry, that last show you did give me the point for the developer of a single player game, which was CD Projekt Red. So
I did. I did, but they don't have the Gunfighter Games doesn't have the pedigree that CD Projekt Red does.
I would just like to point that out.
But we're talking about stickiness here, and stickiness does have a lot to do with, I think, the experience of the developer and all. And gosh, I'm really torn. So that's where I'm really torn. Is all right. We've got a developer who does know how to do stickiness. I think Tryon has kind of proved that. I mean, people still play Rifts. People still play Defiance. People still play love Trove. Oh my gosh, people are all over Trove right now because of just how great of a MMO it is. And but I don't necessarily know that those the key features there are going to add anything that's going to. Gosh, this is really hard to decide.
This is the most entertaining part of the show is watching Larry.
Yeah, I know. This is it's really tough because I think what Cosmic has given as far as key content is concerned, that's awesome. That is stuff I think that will help people stay in the game. Like the things that keep people together, and one of the things that Cosmic did hit right in the first question is group content does keep people together as far as mechanics are concerned, and so
but you need friends for group content.
That's true. That's why I gave the point to friends.
Content for friends.
But the only standout feature that I think that yours has, Jason, first is the spectator mode. And although I think that spectator mode is great, you know what? I'm going to give the point to Cosmic because that is just a great game, and I think the content overall is going to be what makes it. That's what draws people back to WoW. That's what draws people back to MMOs is the new content that comes out. So I'm going to give the point to Cosmic. But
that's the question I'm ever going to win on this show, isn't it? Just to build your own MMO. I can build a great game, just can't answer any other questions. I should just be a developer, right?
There you go. There you go. All right. So, wow. So that means that Tina with 1, Cosmic with 1, Jason has 2. So Jason is the winner. Congratulations,
2-0,
sir.
undefeated.
That was by bias.
It was by bias. All right, so actually, what's really fun?
Larry, what other games do you like? So next time I can make sure to answer.
All right. I'll give you a list after the show. I'll give you a list after the show. What's really interesting is that now we've had Tina, even though she hasn't won one on the one that we show the pilot episode, she won the pilot episode.
And I feel so bitter about that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. We'll
first winner.
She's actually the first winner of this ever. So anyway, we have 3 champions on today. So it was a really good fight. And but this time, since Jason is the winner, I'm going to give it to Jason first. Go ahead and plug your stuff. Where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on the Twitter at Winter Informal. I stream on twitch.tv/JasonWinter and see my cool writings MMOBomb.com and the Guild Wars 2 stuff on MMORPG.com.
Excellent. And let me go to Tina next. Go ahead, Tina. Where can we find your stuff and what have you been doing?
You can find me in Hogsmeade. No. You can find me at predestinationgames.com with my own game project, and you can also, of course, find me at the wonderful Massively Overpowered. I write the Guild Wars column, I write MMO Mechanics, and I write a column about guilds as well called Guild Time.
Awesome. Definitely check all that stuff out on Massively OP. And Cosmic, where can we find your reviews?
You can find me on Twitter at CosmicEngine99, and then you can go watch my videos at youtube.com/thecosmicengine, where you get lots of review goodness.
Yes, you have. When is your Witcher 3 one?
I don't know. I haven't slept in days. It'll be out soon.
All right.
Probably by the time this video goes up.
Probably about the same
next Thursday or something, right?
Yeah,
I'll check myself into a hospital for a while.
All right. Well, if you want to find more of my stuff, you can follow me on Twitter at Shadow SHADDOE, and of course follow Massively Overpowered on Twitter as well at Massively OP. We're also on Facebook, Massively OP, and we're Massively Overpowered on Twitch. And what am I missing? definitely go to our Patreon if you like what you see here. Of course, subscribe on YouTube if you like what you see. Give us a thumbs up and all that good stuff. And then also, if you want to see more of this content, go over to patreon.com/massivelyop. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and I guess we'll see everybody next week. See you later.